excited to be back with all of you for our third Mindful Poetry Moment Gathering of this 2025 selection of poems that are coming to us thanks to curator and friend Manuel Iris. And we're super lucky that today we're studying, loving, and considering and being prompted by one of Manuel's poems. So, and Manuel introduced us to both of our facilitators. So we have Adriana Prieto Quintero, who I'm going to introduce in a little bit more detail in a second, who, in addition to being a beautiful literary poetic human, is also does all the Spanish language translations for all of our mindful music and mindful poetry moments that goes out to all of our kiddos across the country. And then we have Erica Manto Paulson, also a friend of Manuel's, who she met during the pandemic while we were in our own gatherings. They were in other gatherings. And now we're all here today. So I see people starting to make it in. So I'm going to give you a bit of an introduction to Adriana, who I've just come to know. Bryce and I have come to know as friend. And then it's always so exciting when you become a friend of someone to remember how cool they are. So here's how cool Adriana is. She was born in Venezuela and studied education, obtaining a master's degree in literature in Venezuela. She has more than 10 years of experience as a children's literature professor and Spanish teacher, has worked for a writer for many projects, and is the author of Where Are We From?, a book written with the support of the National Association of Latino Arts and Culture and Wavepool. In her home country, she has received grants to develop a regional program for teaching and promoting children's literature, and she's pursuing her PhD with us at the University of Cincinnati at the Department of Romance and Arabic Languages. And so, you know, I was saying last week about how we like to claim amazing people as our own here in Cincinnati. So we're happy to have Adriana here, and she'll kick us off with a meditation.
Hi, thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the invite. I'm really excited and happy to be here. So let's start with this meditation. There is like a way to, like a journey that we're going to start to be working with ourselves and with our words and everyone else's words. So let's begin finding a comfortable position, whether that means sitting, lay down, or simple settling into stillness in your own way. Close your eyes and take a deep breath. Inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Feel the weight of your body supported by the ground. Let us begin a journey. Let's start by listening to our body. Listen to the sounds that your body makes. Imagine your body is walking in a safe place. Listen to your surroundings. Listen to the language of the things around you, not only the language of human beings, but the language of plants, flowers, of animals. What are the sounds of the animals? What are the sounds of the plants and flowers? Let also feel into the language of the ocean, the sea, the river, and the creek that runs near us. Can you hear their move? Let us feel the language of fire. Can you also hear the wind as it moves its heat? Now, search for the language of the earth. Walk into that earth. Feel it, smell it, Place your hands into the soil, searching for the fresh earth that gives us everything we need to exist. Now, I invite you to think about the words that bring us here in this moment. In this moment where we are held by words that have traveled through years to offer us new meanings, new senses, and to shelter us today. All the words we speak today were once spoken by our ancestors, and it was they who brought them to our mouth, our minds, and our hearts. Think about the journey of these words made. Let's walk with those words today while they ask us as we walk. What begins to fall away from me as I walk? What remains with me on that walk? Imagine flowers on your path. Pick those flowers and place them on your head as if they were a crown. You can smell the flowers and feel how the earth energy travels through your body. It begins at your head, then slowly moves down through your face, neck, shoulders, and continues through your whole body until it reaches your toes. Ask yourself silently at each point, where do I belong? Is it in the memory of a place, a sound, a language? What is home? Is it a feeling in the body, a presence, a moment of peace? Where I am from? Does it live in the land I walk, the language I speak, the body of I move through? What parts of myself shape my sense of belonging? Is it how the earth responds when I touch it? There is no need to answer. Keep walking. And with each inhale, imagine yourself as a tree full of leaves and deeply connected to all the language of nature. Now, slowly open your eyes. Look at your body and give thanks to yourself for being here.
It was so beautiful, Adriana. I wanted to take a second to welcome everyone. I understand we're having some challenges getting everyone in the room. So apologies for Zoom glitchiness. Adriana just gifted us with a beautiful meditation, and now Adriana will introduce Erica.
Yeah, I'm super happy and excited to introduce to you our poet facilitator, Erica Manto Paulson. She's a certified doula, childbirth educator, and a certified clinical, I don't know if I'm going to say it right, hypnotherapist who has supported numerous families over the past 20 years. And she discovered her passion through her own birth experiences. Erica is also a published poet and was named in 2022 Ohio Poet of the Year for her book, Hunger, which was inspired by her own experiences as both doula and a mother. She's a mother of 7, and together with her husband, they created Nurture in Hyde Park. They both share this passion and vision to provide a space dedicated to supporting growing families in Ohio. Welcome, Erica.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that beautiful meditation, so visceral. Thank you, Stacy and Bryce and the Well, for inviting me to be here and creating this space for us during National Poetry Month. And thank you especially to my friend Manuel for inviting me here and giving me the great honor of talking about and leading discussion about his beautiful poem. So, Bryce, if you could put the poem up on the screen, and we'll have Adriana will read it in Spanish first, and then I will read it in English.
Can I start?
Yes.
Okay. Soy de aquí. Uno es de los sitios a los que ha llegado, del idioma en el que no puede soñar, y un día sucede y se despierta preguntándose cuál es su casa ahora, cuando siempre hay corazón en otra parte. Uno proviene de las calles que ya nunca sin las mismas al volver. Proviene del momento en el que decidió partir y de ese otro en el que entiende que todo se aleja, que es imposible quedarse aunque te quedes, que es imposible aunque regreses, regresar. Escribo un verso que es como una despedida y lo señalo. Soy de aquí.
Thank you. I am from here. One is from the places that he has arrived, from the language in which he can't dream. And one day it happens, and he wakes up wondering which one is now his house, when there is always a heart elsewhere. One comes from the streets that never are the same when he returns. One comes from the moment in which he decided to leave, and from that other one in which he realizes that everything departs, that it is impossible to stay even if you stay, that it is impossible even if you come back to be back. I write a verse that is like a farewell, and I point at it. I am from here. So I wonder if we could, we didn't talk about this. Adriana, I don't know if you have the poem with you that you could read it and we could take it down and just listen to the poem read in Spanish, and then I'll read it in English. You can close your eyes if you want. It can be part of the meditation in a way, or whatever feels right. But I think it's important to just notice what stirs in you when you hear the language of the poem, when we don't allow our eyes to read, but we just listen. Is that okay? Do you have the poem with you?
Yeah, do you want me to read it, the entire poem again?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just to be sure. Yo soy de aquí. Uno es de los sitios a los que ha llegado, del idioma en el que no puede soñar, y un día sucede y se despierta preguntándose cuál es su casa ahora, cuando siempre hay corazón en otra parte. Uno proviene de las calles que ya nunca sin las mismas al volver. Proviene del momento en el que decidió partir y de ese otro en el que entiende que todo se aleja, que es imposible quedarse aunque te quedes, que es imposible, aunque regreses, regresar. Escribo un verso que es como una despedida y lo señalo. Soy de aquí.
I am from here. One is from the places that he has arrived, from the language in which he cannot dream. And one day it happens, and he wakes up wondering which one is now his house when there is always a heart elsewhere. One comes from the streets that are never the same when he returns. One comes from the moment in which he decided to leave, and from the other one in which he realizes that everything departs, that it is impossible to stay, even if you stay, that it is impossible even if you come back to be back. I write a verse that is like a farewell, and I point at it. I am from here. I just realized I read the whole thing. Now you hear me?
Yeah,
We heard.
all the way up until that you muted it right at the end of the poem, after the poem. So only what you said after the
Okay,
poem got muted.
that's good. See, the technology is not going to keep us down today. The poems are in charge of our time and are leading us, which I'm grateful for that. Okay, so whatever was muted must have not been necessary to stay. What I wanted to do was just to enter into that sense of what is stirred in them and in those lines. And Adriana and I talked about the poem a little bit just in preparation for today. And she noted something that I felt was so important. And that is that Manuel doesn't write the poem in the first person. So he, instead of writing I or yo, he says one until the very end, if you notice. But in the beginning, there's this kind of interplay with this word one. You can see how he uses this word. And so when he says one, he refers to his own experience as an immigrant, but also that quiet ache of belonging everywhere and nowhere all at once. So he's speaking to all of us. And there's a distance there by using that word one. One is from the places that he has arrived. So we open into the poem that way. And this line even flips that traditional idea that we are from the places that we were born into or that we were raised. And instead, it suggests that we are made by where we go, by the places that shape us along the way. One is from the places that he has arrived. So I wonder if we could just start the conversation about the poem. I'm interested to hear how you felt or what you noticed about entering into the poem this way, with the word one, with the poem being written that way, but also with beginning with that turn of like one is from a place that he has arrived, not one is from the place. Anyone have anything they'd like to share, or maybe even things about formed you that weren't necessarily your home or where you're from? Feel free to unmute yourself or raise a hand. Ellen?
Hi, thank you. I'm just struck by, well, the two, to address both things. The one, I just feel immediately includes all of us. So we're right there in the experience. And then to the second part, I'm so appreciative of that, the way this is presented in this poem. Like my personal experiences, I've lived much more of my life away from where my family is, from where I was born and raised. than not. So I really acutely feel this. You know, I'm from where I am. It's almost like another way of saying being in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I think there's something about every time you notice yourself, you've lost touch with that self. You know, it connects to that transitory sort of, that to recognize a thought is to, you know, forever be separate from the thought.
Yeah.
There's a funny thing in there.
Yeah, that there's those lines that it is impossible to stay even if you stay, that it is impossible even if you come back to be back. So we're kind of like held within that tension of like, what does it mean to be back? And where am I? You know, we're kind of these lines in these words. And I also believe the space between the lines, just the way that the poem appears on the page, that there's a space that invites and this deeper sense of connection, but also tension. Sarah.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this because I've lived in New York / Lenape land more than half my life, but I'm not from here, and kind of consider myself a New Yorker, but I really feel like a Californian most of the time. I mean, the way that I speak is Californian. New Yorkers speak very fast. I have never turned into that. Um, and yet I have, I didn't have a choice where I lived when I was young. That's not, children don't make that decision. Adults make the decision. And so the idea that you are from the place where you've arrived, or the places where you've arrived, speaks to me, but also especially when you always have a heart elsewhere. Like you can have lots of hearts or lots of pieces of your heart. And, I've lived in lots of places, and I do feel like I have a little piece of my heart in all of those places with the friends that I made or the places there that I loved, or the pieces of myself that changed while I was there.
Yeah.
So I relate a lot to this.
Yeah, I can relate to that too, with the pieces of your heart being in many places. And thank you for explaining that Zoom does that in order. I didn't know that. Sometimes I don't know what the order even is. Sarah, it looks like you're next, and then Jenny.
Thank you. I'm having the opposite experience from MS because I live in California, but I'm from the East Coast, and everybody can tell right away because of how fast I talk. I try to slow it down. But yes, this poem spoke to me in so many ways. But what I wanted to highlight just now is how he's actually not talking only about places. He's talking about language. He's talking about how you dream. This has impacted me. It's so visceral how I felt that. I wake up speaking different languages that people who sleep next to me tell me I've been speaking in my sleep. And it's not always my first language, actually. So it's like a moment when you realize you start speaking in a different language. And then he also writes about, so obviously places, streets, languages, a moment in which he comes from the moment in which he decided to leave. And then he also talks about a poem, and that's when he switches to the first person. I write a verse that is like a farewell, and I point at it. I am from here. And so he's almost saying, I am from this expression of myself.
Yes.
And that made me think a lot because I think a lot about home. I talk about home a lot in therapy. I'm very confused about home. And one thing I've realized is that the most important thing, I think home is to me, the people that I find who are like me, kind of this similarly displaced. Displaced sounds like someone did it to me. That's not exactly what I mean, but someone without a physical home. Like, I admire people who say, my family has been on this land for generations. It's an amazing thing for me, but it's extremely foreign to me. And pretty much all of my friends and closest people are that way too. And that's how I find home. So it's almost in the people who have a shared experience. So I thought I'd just share that.
Yeah, and you mentioned the final ending line, which I think is so important because it's the very final farewell. And yet the whole poem opens with that last line. I don't know if you noticed that. And he even sets it aside on the page. So, you know, and we see him saying I for the first time. I am from here. It's almost like you feel him pointing at it. And then it's just this big expansion with that last line. So the farewell, the goodbye, the finality is what creates that new beginning, which is just so beautiful. So I love that you mentioned that too. Jenny, did you have a comment that you wanted to share? Did I pick the right person?
I'm unmuted now. I was really struck by the use of he, as if this person who actually left is a different person, and almost could be, in a sense, like it is a definite different person who made this move than who is writing this poem. So there's one, but there's also the character of he, who almost feels generationally different, who doesn't know the language of where he comes from. But to me, personally, how it spoke to me was more of like before and after trauma, and this like not understanding the thing that was, and how you're always searching for that thing that was. And it's a really hard to understand that like yesterday doesn't feel the same as today, right? After you experience something. So even more than like homes in different places, there's sort of this like line in the sand of a before and an after, and kind of what Wade was saying about like how to be in this moment. But that he is so interesting to me, and how that person seems so different than who he is.
Yeah, I see this so often as a doula because I've probably been with over 1,000 families that have given birth by now, and we kind of enter the world that way.
Yeah.
You know, these are like, whoa, where am I? They're closing their eyes. You know, they just came from this dark marine life into the world, and they feel, you know, cold for the first time and light. The first thing they feel is that temperature change on their head as they emerge, and that, you know, we come into the world and that like, where am I? And we never can go back there again. And I think, you know, this poem speaks to that just existence of being. Several of you have said that word, just being, in different ways, you know, that the practice of being human as a human being. Sammy, one more comment, and then I think we'll get into the prompts that we have for today. This is such a great discussion.
I just thought I'd give you my comments. So the first one about the dream, because I'm trilingual, and I used to live in France, it almost became my first language. So I would actually speak to English people in French and French people in English, and not actually know which language I was speaking.
Wow.
It was just second nature. And also there are words that you can't have in another language, you know, they just don't exist. And I find that whole fascinating, that, you know, like you've probably heard of huggy, I think that's how you pronounce it, the Danish cafes, you know, because that there isn't a word for that in English, because that doesn't exist. And that whole thing about cultural language is fascinating. I actually also dream, which is why I brought it up, is because I speak a lot. I'm neurodivergent, and I speak a lot in my sleep. And I am known to literally sit up in bed and have a full-blown conversation in another language and not know I'm doing it. So that was interesting. But then the other thing that was interesting was I thought about, it made me think at the end about a childhood home, because I write a lot of poetry about my experiences, and I'm also writing a memoir. And when I think about certain things that happened in my past, I don't know, most people want to, at some stage, I think so anyway, a lot of people want to go back to their childhood home. They have this sort of thing, oh, I wonder what it's like now, and I'd love to go back in and see whether the things, but we all know that it won't be the same. And actually, you're better not to go. As much as you would really, really love to knock on that door and go in and see your bedroom, you know that if you go in, it possibly would ruin it for you. And that was the sort of going back. You know, you've now changed. That's the past. You know, leave it behind. And that's what that made me think of.
This poem invites such conversation, and everyone has shared such personal, tender parts of themselves. And I credit the poem and the words of this poem for just making us feel safe to share things like what you just said, a desire to go back to a childhood home, or some of the other things that were shared. So right now, kind of while we've got this synergy of the language and the poem and the conversation, I think it would be a great time to get into the prompts. Bryce, do you have those that you could put them up on the screen? And then I can read them, and then take like 10 minutes.
Yes, just one moment.
I have them written down too, but I thought it. There we go. So one would be paying tribute to the place that you're from. And then I also added in my notes, that could be like also, where does your heart live right now? Or describe a home that changed you or that you carry with you. Number two would be celebrating the place that you're going to be. You could also think about what language or place or person makes you feel like you belong or not. Write about a time you tried to go back and discovered you couldn't, and you're realizing where you are now or where you're going to be. And then the third one would just be to follow your own muse. So I look forward to connecting with you in about 10 minutes.
We'll set a timer and we'll let everyone know when we're coming back to one another. All right, everybody, let's come on back. So as usual, if you'd like to read what you've written, a little bit of it, all of it, we know that these are in process. Just raise your hand. There's a little marker at the bottom to raise hand. And if that does not work, go ahead and write in the chat and we'll keep an eye on that too. And Erica, you can choose our readers as people start offering up a poem.
Okay. Looks like Isti is first. Am I saying your name right?
Hello, can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for choosing me. I'm lucky to be here, even though there were a lot of struggles. So I'll read the first topic. Actually, I chose about my hometown. It used to be my hometown. Thanks to English grammar, which is quite different from Indonesian. Now I could say it used to be my hometown. I actually always chose that city in the east coast of Borneo to be my hometown. But one day, my own blood unrooted myself from my root. To be honest, when I was a child up to teenager, my eyes, my mind, and my heart always experienced saudade. Longing for another land to be called home, though I had never been there. Now I'm here in the heart of Indonesia, and I feel and always feel much more belong like never before. Though I have to put each and every piece of roof with every single sweat and tear from scratch. Thank you. Terima kasih.
Thank you. Stacy, you have your hand up next.
I do. I am from here. Yes, see, said the deportee. But I am not supposed to be here. My country is coming for me. A judge ruled for me to come home to where I am not from. The here we dreamed was safe. The here of promises. No, not here. This is not a here. No, aquí. No, please, sir, no. I am not from here anymore.
Thank you, Stacy. These words. And thank you for letting me know that I can choose an order that I see. So I believe Sarah is next, unless there's somebody, and Stacy, you'll help me keep an eye on the chat in case I miss anything. Sarah, share your words.
Thank you. I praise the wanderers I find in every city. I praise the language I find in every city, the same one, found in the crook of your finger and the point of your toe on yet another smoothed floor ready for the felt under our shoes. I praise the people I find in every city who pronounce my name Pinu as Pinu and don't have a burning need to know where I was born or where my mother was born or where my father was born. I praise the accents I find in every city, the ones spoken confidently as they are, no explanation or apology given. I praise the spirits I find in every city, the sparkles in eyes, the senses of adventure, the endless curiosity and thirst that drives us to walk in rain and tents pitched on city beaches and behind piles of desert rocks. These wanderers, language, people, accents, spirits, I am from you. I praise the home you are to me. Thank you.
Sarah, those words just sound like they just wrote themselves. I mean, that was 10 minutes and I just, beautiful. Wade, you're next.
I interrupt this broadcast to judge. The ranking machine spins into gear, expert at the practiced hierarchies. Does every child remember that moment, sometimes a playground, sometimes a gym, sometimes a backyard, when the assertions were first made? It was easy enough at first to fall back into the non-being of play, but the moments piled upon moments. We learned that this list connects to that list, and senses once attuned to wonder are now attuned to discover weakness. I don't have a solution. This isn't a poem about a solution.
Oh, Wade, thank you for those words. Such truth. Thank you for those words. I love to see the read back lines popping up in the chat. I hope you can all take time to see your words there. Sammy, share your words.
Quite a short one, really. Our street had a road, but there was more footfall than cars. Children playing football, skipping along, enjoying penny sweets, not screen games, no phones. Time was told by the sun. Mothers gossip over garden walls of a row of terraced houses with open doors. Babies in prams in front yards, cooing to each other like pigeons on guard, waiting for crumbs from fallen chip paper.
Your voice is like a song. That was beautiful. So is anyone wondering if they should read or not and feeling like, I don't know? I want to encourage you to read your words and share your words in this space if you still have time for more. I'll let you sit with that tension. If there's anything calling you to share your words. Jenny. Thank you, Jenny.
Technical difficulties. This is just the beginning of something, and it is very, anyway, I'll let it speak for you. She was your daughter. She awoke every morning to watch you eat breakfast long before the sun rose. Before school was an idea, the only thing that mattered was to see you, your face shaved clean, pressed uniform, big shining shoes. You asked her more than once, why are you up so early? I wonder if she knew you'd leave a few years later. When I say leave, I don't mean death, the one thing that might have made sense. You left her, and you had to have known that every time she woke up, it was for you. Why are you up so early? Then because she loved you. Now I am unsure.
Jenny. And thank you for sharing your work in progress. That helps us all to feel safe to share our works in progress. We're all works in progress. Stacy, I think this is time for you to step in before we
Wrap it up.
Yeah.
Well, while all of you were listening and then writing beautiful things, Bryce was doing his deep intelligence work on IT situations and has discovered that there's a massive Zoom outage around. So we will find out and make sure to get you really good links every week. But this one was, I think, enhanced or hampered by the Zoom challenge.
Just so you know, apparently Spotify was the same.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, I guess hackers got a hack. Okay, so a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful poem. Thank you to Manuel, the poet, and our curator, and to Adriana and Erica for doing such a lovely job of grounding us in the magic of this poem. Next week, I'll pause here. So you will get an email from us if you wish to submit something that you wrote already toward our publication. You can do so, and we'll be chatting with you every time we gather, and then in May to ask for official submissions. Next week, It's our last of our 4 weeks during Poetry Month, and Manuel will be back again. And he's joined by Eddie Gonzalez, who was our beloved colleague from On Being. He has stepped away from his work at On Being, but will be back with us, and we're very excited. And we'll be thinking about Walcott's Love After Love poem. So, Bryce, am I forgetting anything?
I think that's all great. And we'll follow up via email with links to submit and register for next week, maybe a backup link, and all of the good things.
Great, thank you. And also we'll email you how to connect with Adriana and Erica. Erica will be joining us at the at the Wells Space and Mortar in Cincinnati for Ellen, who I think is still here, Ellen Austin Lee's book launch coming up soon. So you'll be able to see her there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to turn it back over to Erica to help find someone who would be willing to read the poem in Spanish, and then someone from our group who would be willing to read the poem in English. So Erica, any volunteers for Spanish?
Any volunteers for Spanish?
I could give it a try. Oh, Stephen, you're first.
Okay. And any volunteers for English? Stephen, did you want to read in Spanish?
Yeah, Spanish.
Okay. And MS, could you read in English? Would you be willing to do that?
That's great.
So before we leave, thank you. It was wonderful to be here with you all. I want to say each of your names as we close this out and before we end our poems, because each one of you being here with us in this space is so valued and so important, and to honor you, MS, Alex, Beatrice, Elliot, Jenny, Sammy, Charlie, Elena, Wade, Sarah, Ellen, Easty, Adriana, Bryce, Stacy, Stephen, Erica, Manuel, who is with us in spirit. Thank you for sharing this space today. And thank you for volunteering to read the poem. So I wonder if we can end with the Spanish this time, if that's okay. So if we could read first in English and then end with the Spanish version. Whenever you're ready.
I'm from here. One is from the places that he has arrived, from the language in which he can't dream. And one day it happens, and he wakes up wondering which one is now his house, when there is always a heart elsewhere. One comes from the streets that are never the same when he returns. One comes from the moment in which he decided to leave, and from that other one in which he realizes that everything departs, that it is impossible to stay, even if you stay, that it is impossible, even if you come back, to be back. I write a verse that is like a farewell, and I point at it. I am from here.
Soy de aquí, de Manuel Iris. Uno es de los sitios a los que ha llegado, del idioma en el que no puede soñar, y un día sucede y se despierta preguntándose cuál es su casa ahora, cuando siempre hay corazón en otra parte. Uno proviene de las calles que ya nunca son las mismas al volver. Proviene del momento en el que decidió partir y y de ese otro en el que entiende que todo lo abandona, que es imposible quedarse aunque te quedes, que es imposible aunque regreses, regresar. Escribo un verso que es como una despedida y lo señalo. Soy de aquí.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Beautifully, beautifully done. Thank you, Adriana. Thank you, beautiful humans.
Thank you.
We'll see you all next week.
Bye.